Can you answer these questions? Example 1. Find the highest common factor. In example A, we start with the numbers, finding the highest common factor between 16 and 40, which is 8. If the highest common factor for the numbers doesn't jump out at you, remember you can list the factors on the side for each number to easily see the HCF. Next, we look at one variable at a time, starting with the x. We notice the x is a product of both terms. Therefore, we can take out the smallest power of x, which is x. Now checking the y. Since the first term does not have a product of y, it is not common between both terms. So we can't take a y out, leaving us with a final answer that the HCF is 8x. In example B, we start with the numbers, find the highest common factor between 36 and 12, which is 12. List the factors on the side if needed. Next, we look at one variable at a time, starting with t. We notice that a t is a product of both terms. Therefore, we can take out the smallest power of t, which is t squared. Now checking the h. Since the first term does not have a product of h, it is not common between the two terms. So we can't take a h out, leaving us with a final answer that the HCF is 12t squared. Now, before we start example 2, if you want to follow along with every example, we are working through my free algebra booklet. I'll leave a link to download it in the description. Example 2. Factorize each expression. In example A, there are two methods used to factorize expressions. I will show you method 1 for example A and B, then method 2 for C and D. We first set up the brackets. Then we need to look for the highest common factor of both terms. Starting with the numbers, the highest common factor is 2. Checking the variables. Since the second term does not have an x, we can't bring out an x. The next step, we divide 2 by each term and put it in the brackets. Starting with 2x divided by 2, which is just 1x or x. Then moving on to the next term, since we're dividing by two positives, our result will be positive. Then 6 divided by 2 equals 3, and we are done. Before moving on, we can always check our final answer if we quickly expand it. Does this equal the question? If it does, then we know we are correct. In example B, we set up the brackets, then we need to look for the highest common factor for both terms, starting with the numbers. And sometimes it may be tricky to immediately find the highest common factor. So let me show you how to complete the question if you don't pick the highest common factor first go. Looking at both our terms, you may conclude that 4 is the highest common factor. So let's take this out. Next, we need to divide each term by 4, and we get the following. We check in the brackets, we are left with 2y and 12. Can we continue? Are there any common factors between these two terms? Yes, we can. We can factor out a 2. We do the same process again. We take out a 2, then divide it by each term in the brackets. Dividing 2y by 2, which is 1y or y. Next, 12 divided by 2, this equals 6. The 2 and the 4 out the front are still multiplying. We can simplify this and we are done. So in the case that you don't find the highest common factor the first time, check your answer and go again and notice if there are any common factors still inside the brackets. Again, before moving on, we can always check our final answer and quickly expand it. Does this equal the question? And if it does, then we know we are correct. In example C, I'll show you another method to factorize expressions. We set up the brackets. Since the highest common factor for the numbers is 1 for both terms, we go straight to the variables. We see that an A is common in both terms, so we can take out an A. Next, moving on to the variable B. Since the first term does not have a B in it, we can't take it out. Now this method, we treat it like an expanding question and try to find the missing piece. Let me show you. A times what gives me A? A times 1 is A. Next, we know a positive number times another positive number gets you a positive answer. And A times what gets you AB, which is B. And we are done. Let's check our answer by expanding. In example D, we set up the brackets, starting with the numbers. The highest common factor is 3. Next, moving on to the variables. X is common in both. However, we need to be careful and only take out the smallest power, which is X. Now we find the missing expanding piece. 3x times what gives me 3x squared. This is X. Next, a positive number times a negative number gets you a negative answer. And 3x times what gets me 9x. This is 3, and we are done. Let's check our answer by expanding. You now know how to answer exam questions. However, the next lesson is factorizing with negative terms. Watch this next video to get the best visual demonstration of this skill.